Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Netters Network Thursday Things. And tonight, my special guest host. Tonight, he's our D&D.
Yeah.
He's also known as Chris Kent. He has other channels, which we're going to talk about those other channels too, so that you can make sure you subscribe to every single one of them. But before we get started, let me introduce my co-host and my guest. So my co-host tonight, of course, you all know, the love of my life, that guy at the end of the bar, Troy Pacelli. How you doing tonight, sweetie, and what you sipping on?
I'm doing okay. It is Thursday. I would be doing better if it was Friday. And I'm drinking carbonated water, although I would be doing better if it was Friday. Because then I could have something a little bit stronger.
Here's a water.
Thank you.
It's the last
Keep
cold
me
one
hydrated.
in here, so that one's going to last the hour of the show.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And of course, as I mentioned, our special guest tonight, Chris Kent. The channel is our D&D
Our D&D
Game.
game. I was like, I
Yeah.
know there's what's the third word? Our D&D game. It's like all these different words. How you doing tonight, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
I'm good. And I have rotten vodka.
Ooh.
This
What
episode
is
brought
rotten
to you
vodka?
by it's vodka that I left in the basement instead of a refrigerator. And we had a hot summer, and it is the worst thing you'll ever drink. I
Now,
highly recommend it. I'll drink some
mentioned,
just for the
You had mentioned
no.
this last week, and I was
no,
trying to
it's
figure out what
horrible.
could go wrong with vodka. Yes.
Well,
what happens is if you have it in a warm place, you get some evaporation happens, and then it recondenses, and that does give it like a stale kind of taste.
hold
Okay,
on
so
here.
it's
We'll
kinda
do
like
we'll do
drinking
stupid
stale
animal
water?
tricks.
Is it like drinking stale water?
Wow. Oh man, it's gonna be a heck of a stream, I think.
Ugh.
Just use a
Can we
term
see where
like
the level
hate.
is now?
Yeah.
That's about half a bottle in one chug. I'll do some more in a little bit. Oh God, it's
Wow,
so
man.
bad.
It's gonna be
It's
a fun
bad.
stream.
It
You'll
is
be
going to
I'm
be
like
a fun
Troy.
stream.
I want to be a fun guy.
I mean, in fairness, you got some capillary space on you. I'm guessing you're not a lightweight drinker.
I do all right. I actually this is a horrible story, but
No,
what the hell?
let's hear it.
Go
It's
for
me.
it.
I guess you guys expect it now, right?
Right.
Um, there like so as a kid, I loved Christmas, and as an adult, the thing that kills me because I always associate Christmas with toys, and
Sure.
I hate to be that guy. I'm just being honest, right?
Yeah.
Um, I am a spiritual guy and everything, but I really mentally I'm still like 10, and I just want to run into the living room on Christmas morning and tear open something awesome, and I want to be surprised, and I want it to be cool, and I want to be happy and all that stuff, right?
Right.
And like, but as a toy collector who's an adult and has money, I already bought what I wanted.
Right.
So when Christmas comes around, I never have anything cool under the tree. It's always like, oh, I got you a wallet. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, like it's so depressing. And like I don't know, this is probably 10 years ago or something. But and of course my kids have fantastic Christmases.
Right.
But I'm like I'm always chasing that feeling you had
Yeah.
when you were younger, right? And so someone asked me, they're like, "What do you drink? What are you drinking on Christmas morning?" And I said, "I don't drink at all on Christmas morning." They go, "Well, there's your problem right there."
Well, there's your
And
problem.
and and so the one Christmas I had, I couldn't even tell you what it was or how many. I mean, but it was like I chugged a bottle of whiskey and then I chugged a bottle of vodka and and it's like not even a buzz,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just
I
nothing.
get
Yeah.
you. I
At
get
any
you.
rate, we got.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can finish that off.
Is
Then
that
I will drank an entire bottle of vodka on your
I'll
stream.
tell you something else. Is that a plastic bottle?
Oh, yeah, it's another thing that would add to it.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Just watching that is making my stomach go a little sour.
Oh, it's making me wish it was. Yep, making me wish it was. Congratulations. Making me wish it was Friday. Is that a plastic bottle though, Chris?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's like Kroger brand $6 vodka or something. You know, it's
I
not
hear you. But
we need to give
fantastic.
him, what was it, Billy Bob's vodka?
yes, there is a video, and I'll have to find it sometime so I can reference it again. I did when the whole Ukraine thing started, I did a stream where I started the stream out.
Wait, I gotta go get it now.
Yeah, I started out the stream with a taste test. Two glasses of vodka. One was, I think it was Stoli's, and the other one was something American that Netter's going and getting. Let's see. Buddies. I'm sorry. It's Buddies. Is it Buddies American Vodka? The upside to Buddies American Vodka is it is in a glass bottle, as was the Stoli's.
And it's 6 times distilled.
It is 6 times distilled, which ought to be pretty good, right? I had Netter pour them for me. She kept track of which was which. I did not know when I sipped them.
Yeah, it was a blind taste test.
And, but no surprise to anybody, I chose the Stoli's. There was a distinct difference. Was the Buddies American Vodka bad? No. But honestly, after that taste test, I wouldn't go out of my way to get it again. It probably was a few bucks cheaper than the Stoli's. Here's my recommendation. This is my booze recommendation for everybody. If you are going to drink, if you are going to buy liquor for your own home, I don't care what it is. If it's gin, if it's vodka, if it's, I don't know, tequila, make sure it's a glass jar. Don't get plastic anymore. That is the biggest thing that makes a huge difference in the flavor. Now, if at all possible, try to avoid, if you're going to get a wine, try to avoid cork. That's difficult, I know. Even the best wines use cork still. But if you find a wine you like and they use those artificial corks, go with those. Trust me on this.
Before we get too much further into
I'm
this
sorry,
evening,
we haven't said hello to the chat yet, have
Right.
we? I am so sorry.
first in, and I haven't seen him here before, Captain America.
When
Have a
Captain
safe one.
America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. And if he's led to a fight, and a duel is due, and the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
You get a welcome and a
There
song.
you go. Singing on stream is getting to be my thing, even when I don't drink.
We also have Goat. I don't know if I'll still be up, but if not, have a good show. Awesome.
Looks like he's keeping his eye on us.
Yep. Big Al presents. Have a great stream, my friends. May you all make your saving throws.
Yes.
Yes.
And no critical fumbles.
And we got, this our Dungeons and Dragons game guy.
Yeah, losing likes. What's going on with that? We just made it back up to 20.
I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, you haven't even seen my face yet. Don't hit the down button yet.
They got tired of waiting, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm leaving,
No,
and I'm taking my life with me.
That last
They had
one.
high hopes it was a different guest. Then he mentioned it was CK, and they were like, oh, shit.
Oh, I thought they were going to talk about their D&D game. Well, to heck with this Chris
Yeah.
guy.
Do this. We
Yeah.
also have deleted scenes, dropping everybody's links as he usually does.
You're
Thank
awesome,
you so much,
man.
deleted scenes. You are our favorite Blue Runch for a reason.
Yep.
Let's see. We have our Admiral, Evelyn Hampton. How you doing, sweetie?
Kapla.
Gapla. And I know I have some other ones.
And
Shadowhawk.
Shadowhawk.
Wait, I haven't gotten there yet.
I'm sorry.
I have Jesse saying good
Oh,
evening.
I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Jesse. How you doing? Good to see you.
Was he invisible or something?
Well, you know,
He's right above Shadowhawk. How can you miss that?
it's the blue in the Shadowhawk there that got my attention.
Then we have Shadowhawk saying 20 seconds. So that's
Good.
when we're doing our countdown. I think.
Oh, and I will take the claps as though they were for my singing. I doubt that's the case, but I'll take it anyway.
No, I think they were. They just got added, right?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about me drinking, chugging a bottle of vodka. That's
gotta be
boring stuff.
No. I think that's the gift that keeps on giving. It'll get better as the stream goes, I think.
Yeah, like
We'll find out.
Yeah.
on Troy streams, if I allow him to have one drink, sometimes two, depending on what it is he's drinking.
Sometimes I sneak a little bit extra
like
in there.
He's got,
because I only drink on Fridays, damn
he's
it.
got the Kraken bottle behind his head right now.
Yeah.
And
because I didn't put it away from last week.
and so it's like, if I step away to like go to the bathroom or something, he'll sneak another, fill up his glass again, and it's like,
hey, honey, don't you have to go to the bathroom?
yeah, it's like, wasn't that bottle a little bit fuller a minute ago?
Shadowhawk,
like
he drank the whole bottle of whiskey. No, of vodka.
Yeah, I chugged a bottle of vodka. Yeah.
My gosh, yeah.
Shadowhawk said
I'm just trying to
entertain.
entertain. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to start this stream out a little bit differently. So oftentimes, actually, maybe every stream we do, whether it's Last Call, whether it's Thursday Things, Rewatch, whatever, Netter has a closing where she talks about the stream and how much we appreciate everyone and how much you guys are all like family to us. So that's something I wanted to key in on at the beginning here, because Chris here, started hanging out with us in the chat. We had him on, you were on my channel, you were on Netter's channel before, and then
I'm a repeat offender.
You are a repeat offender. That's true. And chances are you'll be back again in the future. People that have been on more than once tend to cycle back in from time to time, because it's the people we like to hang out with, right? Well, and sure enough, I don't know. You've been with us for what? Maybe a year, maybe a little more than a year at least. And
I think since last Christmas.
Okay, so we're coming up on a year. Sure. And out of the blue, you invite me to your vow renewal,
which was amazing, by the way.
Because
thank you for coming.
There was the convenience of the fact that you live, just the other side of town from where my mom lives, so it was a twofer. I could visit my mom, I could come visit you and whatnot, and hang out with you for the wedding. But I mean, that's what I'm talking about. When Netter says you guys are like family, that's the kind of thing she's talking about. Who would have thought meet somebody in the chat of our streams and then go to their wedding, I mean, so that's who Chris Kent is.
Right. And I always say, you're not just our friends, you're a family.
Exactly.
And we were made to feel so much like family with you. I mean, it was incredible. And your whole family is lovely. And
well, thank
your
you.
daughter is so amazing. I got pictures of her, and she actually told me,
so
she's like,
sweet.
she goes, I never get good pictures. She goes, I love those. Send them to me. And it's like, but you're so beautiful. How can you not photograph well, And it's like, so I was happy that I was able to make her happy, because she is gorgeous. So I'm glad she really liked those pictures I took.
And like I have a lot of friends that will swing by now and again to play the game or whatever. Or like I used to own a comic book store, and I always felt like at the shop, because like my attitude, and this is probably why I still don't own a comic book store, I always remember, what was that movie? It was like Miracle on 34th Street.
Yep.
And the guy playing Santa Claus tells people, you know what? The store down the street actually has this a little cheaper.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And that always stuck with me. And so my attitude was, you're not my customer, you're my friend.
Yeah.
We're hanging out. And if you happen to buy something from me, great.
Yeah.
And if you just want to hang out, great. And I had a couch in the shop, and I had a TV in the shop, and we would just stand around all day, me and 700 of my closest friends, talking about, did you read this new issue of X-Men, or did you see the whatever, the such and such movie, or whatever, And at any oh yeah, so sometimes it's old customers come over and so on and so forth. So I always kind of have this rotating door. But at any rate, I gotta say something my family never says, and they said after they met you guys. Every family member is like, I really like them.
Aw.
There's something
Oh,
about them.
that
Like
is
they're
so
really
nice.
cool. And like, yeah, they never really say that. So I was like, huh, okay, that's cool. Like, well, I think they're coming out again in the fall. So we'll
Yeah.
have to hang out.
I hope that ends up working. It may not, though. I was actually talking with Netter, and because of some work related situations and
Yeah.
whatnot, we might not be able to make it back. Haven't told my mom yet, but she doesn't watch the stream, so it doesn't matter.
Well, part of it is I can tell you guys because none of you work for my company, so it's never gonna get out.
Oh, yeah. You guys are going to be the first to hear this.
Yeah. So, my boss's boss set up a one-on-one meeting with me today for this afternoon, and so I Teams messaged my immediate manager and said, "Why is Carissa setting a one-on-one for me? Am I in trouble for something? Did I do something?" Because Carissa has never had a one-on-one meeting with me except for when I was hired during my interview 3 years ago. That's the only time we've ever had a one-on-one. And my first thought is, I must have done something really horrendous that she needs to talk to me. Well, it turned out that my manager was about to have a one-on-one with her manager, who's the one who wanted the meeting with me. And I said, can you kind of like subtly ask her, like, oh, Nanette mentioned that, you got a meeting with her this afternoon. Anything I need to know about? Just kind of slip it in there. She goes, yeah, I'll ask. So after her one-on-one, she gave me a message and she said, oh, she just needs to let you know about some updates. It's nothing bad. Nothing that you need to be concerned with. I'm like, oh, okay. So I felt better about that.
Nothing that you need to
Yeah.
be concerned with.
So
That's
I
the key.
get the meeting, and she's like, the first words out of her mouth are, so we're doing a reorganization and having some reduction in force, and I think I went 3 shades of pale
Yeah.
because I've been through so
Like
many
she's
of
not
those.
pale enough, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I've been through so many of those. It's like, oh, please tell me I'm not losing my job. And this is we were glad to have you here, have a nice life talks. But instead she goes, it doesn't affect you at all, but we are changing your structure in the company. And I'm like, and my first thought was, oh, thank God. And then she proceeded to tell me that I'm going from, my department is fulfillment. So I'm going from fulfillment to being under another manager who does MDAP. It's all like computer, not computer, IT certifications is what my company does. So it's going from fulfillment, where I'm creating all these source codes for people to use to buy our products, to doing something where it's more trainer involved. So I'm going to help get the trainers onboarded so that they can teach classes and what have you. And so I'm just sitting there going, okay, I'm safe. But of course,
the important point here is, of course,
Yeah.
that
we lost a bunch of
a
people.
lot
in
of
our
people
department.
lost. She's going to be getting a lot more
Yeah.
responsibility. Taking time off is going to be much more difficult.
From my
for
team
her.
alone, we lost at least 4 people out of 11. So it's like
17% in her company.
Yeah.
So
We just got a new CEO,
That's huge.
and
Yeah.
this is what he's doing.
and
Oh, that
talking
sucks.
through that, plus the fact that I'm a contractor, so if I take a week off of work, that's a week's pay that I don't get. So
Right.
Exactly. 'Cause
so we got to rethink our plans. But obviously, next time we do make it out there, we're going to come hang out
Yeah.
with you.
So
for
good
sure.
news is
Yeah,
my job is safe. Bad news is I'm going to have a lot more work to do.
Exactly. So
Well, and it's fine on my end. Like, things happen. I get it, But yeah, we'll just hang out sometime. It'd be cool.
Absolutely. So, like I had said before, you were on with me. We were talking.
One sec. Hi, Age Boomer.
Oh, hey, Age of Boomer. Good to see you. Yeah, I dropped
Hello.
I dropped a note in there. So we talked on my stream about and actually, interestingly enough, next week I'm planning to kind of obliquely visit this topic again. The DC universe, their movies, their their
Right.
ideas and whatnot, and where it's going. And then on a previous installment of Thursday Things, you sat and talked with Netter about the longest running superhero RPG on Earth.
Yes.
Which you have been running.
Right.
And
I keep thinking that's an acronym, you know? Like
it should be, you know.
If I had my act together, I would somehow turn it into one. It was they sent me a trophy, and that's
Right.
just what it said on the trophy. And yeah, so I didn't come up with that.
Right.
Oh.
And
I'm thinking about going back to it actually because I chose Continuum Chronicles for my new channel,
right.
and it's not self-explanatory.
Right.
I posted one video and someone said, "So what is this? Is this a comic book you're reading out loud?" And I'm like, "Oh, he doesn't even get that it's a game." You know, like
yeah, that's
a
good point.
problem.
And
yeah.
But the fact that he asked that question should be a little bit encouraging to you, because after all, isn't that the goal for your role-playing game? For it to be like a live,
seem like a comic
interactive
book,
role-play.
Exactly.
Or, excuse me, a comic book. Exactly.
And I did
Right,
make you a
right.
blue wrench, so if you want to drop the links to your other channels, feel free.
Absolutely, you should. You should do that.
That would be hard. I have such a hard time working it when I'm on.
You know what? That's okay.
Deleted scenes. Did you already?
And if
did
you
you already
didn't,
drop
I can
any?
too.
I know he dropped for this one, and I also have it below in underneath with all the other words.
Yeah.
Okay, because the old superhero channel was the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. That was like the name of it.
Right.
The new version of that, because they got some YouTube strikes, because in role playing games, of course, characters fight and there's violence, and I think some of the key words when I would say what happens to a character when they no longer have hit points and are not alive so much anymore.
Yes.
Some of those words, I think, YouTube seems like it was kind of shadow banning me.
Yeah.
So I was dropping new videos, and people who were following me were like, "I'm not seeing any videos from you," you know.
Yeah.
So that's two of the sites, and then the other two that might be worth mentioning is then there's one just called @Continuum Comics, and that is where me and some other guys are going to try to actually turn the game into a real comic book.
Cool.
So that's going to be like
that would
live
be
streaming me
amazing.
drawing the pages and stuff.
That's awesome.
And then our D&D game.
Yep. So
That's
that's what I was getting to. So we got the superhero role playing game, the superhero and comic book elements.
Right.
But tonight we're gonna,
which I do 99% of the time.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But you also have a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yep.
So
Thank you,
yes.
Denise, for dropping those links.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I'm really bad at multitasking.
Oh yeah, me too. I know.
And
That's one of the
my
reasons
computer
I got to
is
keep my job, because I am good.
Yeah, exactly.
I got like my laptop out of a Cracker Jack box basically.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I try to do more than one thing, and the laptop's like crash, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
So I guess the place to start with Dungeons and Dragons is, of course, at the beginning. When did you start playing D&D, and what edition was it?
AD&D second edition in the 80s at school. A friend of mine named Jay Mora was the dungeon master. And the irony is, as a kid, I never liked the fantasy genre.
Huh.
And I was always kind of, and it's weird because I've gone the other way now.
Yeah.
But I remember as a kid, I'd be like, well, what's the point though? It's like history that never happened. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like if we didn't have dragons in real life, like I just don't get what you're going for even.
Yeah.
And I remember loving Star Trek in like kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like seeing the 60s Trek was always in reruns, you know, on like a Saturday night at 7 or something. And so like to me, phasers made a lot of sense. Like, oh yeah, that's useful. Like I totally want a phaser.
Yeah.
But if you handed me a sword, I was like, I got to go up there where he might hit me back. Like that doesn't sound fantastic for me, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just always really more spaceships and lasers and that kind of thing. And so Jay was running D&D and I started kind of thinking it was okay, but it really still wasn't my thing.
Sure.
And through the years, because it's really kind of messed up that I'm here to promote my D&D game, and then I'm like, I really don't like D&D. I'm not into fantasy. But it's true. And
Yeah.
so the game ends up being really weird as a result. But so like Jay ran it and I was like, it's okay. And then over the years other people were running it. I'm like, it's okay. Um and it was more kind of like I would play it to hang out with friends. And then
Yeah.
it was before quarantine. When did that start? Like 2020?
Yeah.
Is that when all
2020.
that started?
Like
Yeah.
February 2020.
Yeah.
So it must have been like 2018 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was 5th edition D&D came out, and sort of like my family, because we play lots of games, like pretty much any role-playing game there is, we have played it or we're going to play it, you know.
Sure.
And so at any rate, my wife loves fantasy. Um, and she's got a whole room in the house that's nothing but like it literally looks like a Hobbit room with vines and
Nice.
bookshelves and
Nice.
and at any rate, so she's like, they got this new D&D out, 5th edition. You should run it. We should see what we think about it. And I
Uh-huh.
guess that was what started it, was everybody was like, yeah, let's see what we think about it. And my kids were like, what's D&D? And I was like, well, we got to fix that. You know,
Yeah.
you have to play it at least once, you know. Um, and so my thing was over the years, and I feel like other people who play D&D might relate to this. Um, a friend would run a one shot, and you'd think, you know what, that's a cool idea. I'm really curious to see where this goes. And then for whatever reason, it fizzled out and it didn't
I
go
hate that.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would always remember those moments and those characters that could have been. And so when everybody's like, run D&D, I was like, what if I took all those scraps of other people's games and threaded them together into one game world, you know,
Yeah.
and give it a chance to actually be something. And so we did that. And the gist of the game would be kind of like if you took the kids from Stranger Things and sort of like the old 80s D&D cartoons, something happens where they go to the D&D world from our world,
Yeah.
but they're stuck there. And something I did was I had almost all the characters were attacked by werewolves and stuff. So they all became were creatures. And everybody was kind of a different animal. So that it wasn't like we're just all wolves and we all do the exact same thing. You know, everybody had a different character class, everybody was a different animal. But then the idea was we did this through the centuries thing of this
Mm.
party that just never ages, you know. And that was it. And I ended it right around the time that Avengers Endgame was coming out,
Uh-huh.
and everybody was talking about the Infinity Gauntlet. So I did this thing with the Rod of Seven Parts, which I
Oh,
felt
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
in a way it's kind of D&D's answer to the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
But the whole time though, I was kind of running it like a superhero story with D&D characters.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Sure.
and it didn't have the realism that I think other people's D&D games have. It seems more like you're watching some sort of a cartoon, and you might be really into that cartoon,
Sure.
like a cool action cartoon. But I still feel like my D&D game is kind of cartoony. Um, and one of the things that happened in it was there's these things called world trees, which are basically gigantic trees.
Sure.
And in the old game, at one point, my wife planted a world tree seed on a beach. And so just this, I think it was this spring, my whole family came to me and said, we really miss D&D. Like we haven't done it for, you know, whatever, 3 years now or whatever. And
Yeah.
like, we'd really like you to get back into running D&D again. And I was like, oh, really? Like that kind of sucks. Okay. Oh, I guess I'll run some D&D. And so in the new thing, one of the first adventures was they went to a beach and there was a gigantic tree there.
There you
And
go.
then there's like a cemetery and there's the names of their old characters are on the tombstones. So we don't
Wow.
really know how long it's been, you know,
Yeah.
since that other campaign took place. And then I had these glowing green crystals growing out of the ground in the cemetery. And so they go there at night and then their old characters come up as skeletons, wearing bits and pieces of some of stuff. So
Wow.
if somebody had like a magic ring that they really loved, that oh, my old character had this cool ring,
Yeah.
that was kind of their starting equipment. Was they got their ring back from their other guy, and they gave their old
Wow.
characters, you know. And I drive people nuts because a lot of people that play D&D will go, "Well, what's up with those green rocks? Like what book is that in? What page is that found on? I've never heard of green rocks that animate the dead." I'm like, "Put it on my butt, man." I was thinking of oh crap, the thing, glow sticks
Oh,
at
sure, sure.
Halloween. I in my head I was just thinking like, I want to do a thing with skeletons. That reminds me of Halloween. It reminded me of glow sticks, so I just made it up, you know. And I just make up a lot of stuff in my D&D game, and I feel like a lot of people who play D&D are very like, no, 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 it goes this way, you
Yeah.
know.
I
So
see. It's funny you say that because, um, I I think at the age that we're at now, I see. I used to run into that a lot more in high school and college, but now I think most of the players I deal with totally get the rule zero thing. You know, I mean, they might balk at you if they feel like you've changed a game mechanic, especially in combat, that makes something seem unfair to them. But other than that, you know, new items, new uh, gods or abilities. I mean, there's rules that cover that, and if you have a wizard that fires off at you a bunch of blue darts. Well, it's just what their magic missile looks like. It does the same damage, you know. It's just, or
right,
you want them to be
right,
green, or you want them to come out of a ring on his hand instead of from his fingers or whatever. Yeah, maybe it's not the exact description in the book, but who cares? It's
Yeah.
creative license, right? That's kind of how it goes.
right,
You mentioned the kids had never played D&D. Had
right.
you played role playing games with them before? Had they been part of
Mm.
the superhero one and so forth?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My son um was learning to walk. Well, there's a couple stories. I can go back before that. I used to have a dear friend named Dave Eckelberger, who sadly is no longer with us.
Uh huh.
He passed away back in 2010. Um, but my son was born in '03, and my daughter was born in '05. And so at any rate, um, Dave was in my weekly group, and he would be over, and we were playing this game at the time called Tales from the Floating Vagabond, which is a comedy game.
Okay.
And it's a little kind of Monty Python, and it's a little kind of Spaceballs, kind of, that sort of thing. And at any rate, Dave had uh, kind of a twisted sense of humor, And so while we're playing, my son is laying on his back. We've got like a little baby blanket down on the living room floor or whatever. Everybody's just sitting on the floor in kind of a circle. And at any rate, we get to this point in the game where we're running a module. And in the module, the bartender mixes stuff he's not supposed to mix, and it creates a slime monster.
Okay.
And they just say the slime monster follows the characters around and is like kind of hiding under the tables and stuff. And then if you encounter something bad that's relatively weak, the slime monster just jumps on it and eats it.
Okay.
So it's kind of horrible, but part of your party,
Neat.
and that's kind of the sense of humor there. And at any rate, so my son would just gurgle and make the sounds that babies make.
Right.
And Dave, being the genius he is, really quickly is like, "Oh, it's so cute. We should name him Hitler." And um and so he's like, "Do you want something to eat, buddy? Do you want to take a shot of whiskey or whatever?" And he'd like hand my son his bottle or
Right.
whatever. But so my son was playing role-playing games
Yeah.
before he could crawl,
That's
and
awesome.
then when he learned to walk, I remember he like teetered over to the coffee table one day, and there were some dice on it,
Uh huh.
and he was rolling the dice. And I think he had just seen us rolling dice, and he thought,
Right.
"Hey, I'm rolling the dice now. This is cool." And
Right.
so the great thing about the old Marvel superheroes role-playing game is you can randomly generate characters. We still
Sure.
use it to generate a lot of our characters, because you get stuff that's not the same old thing that way. And he rolled up a undead speedster.
Wow.
And I thought that's kind of cool. So he was kind of the original fast zombie. And he
Nice.
plays that character every once in a while. But
That's
yeah, he
cool.
rolled that up before he could, string sentence. So yeah, they very much both grew up playing games. Um and now my daughter kind of runs games for her friends, but it's more kind of anime stuff
Sure.
like that. And I'll kind of tell her like, "Hey, I kind of like gaming too." And she's like, "No, Dad, get away. You're so old. You're so old and uncool." Okay.
So Evelyn says, I never played D&D, but my son was a DM since high school. He hosted a weekly game followed by pizza and VCR movie for his friends. Yeah, I remember those days.
This is the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jesse says, that's what I love about D&D. You use your imagination and a little bit of Lord of the Rings. That's true. There is a lot of Lord of the Rings in just the basic bones of D&D. It was very clear what Gary Gygax was drawing on, no doubt about it. Oh, that reminds me, I went to the antique shop in my neighborhood and they have 2 large cases of Lord of the Rings miniatures. Yes, there was or there probably still is, a Lord of the Rings role-playing game and miniature combat game. So you could probably integrate a lot of that kind of stuff into your D&D game too. But
It seems like it'd be very easy.
And Doctor and author Adega Outlaw has just joined us. Welcome, Adega. Good to see you, my friend. We are talking D&D. So recently, your family convinced you to pick up 5th edition. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I actually every edition that's come out since my kids were born, I would buy a copy of all the books for my kids.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
well, not all, the core, the 3 core
Sure.
books.
No, I get you.
The players,
I got what you meant.
DM and
The
monsters.
players,
Yeah.
DM, and probably the
I
main monster manual. Yeah.
Yeah, they put out so many books for
Yeah.
things. And yeah, but yeah, I think the first one I got them was actually, because I think we played 3rd edition in my comic shop. Because my store closed its doors in 2002. So I think that was 3.0 still. I don't think 3.5 had hit yet.
Oh, okay.
And so I think 4th edition, the one that is like the least popular one, was the first one I bought for my kids. And
Sure.
then I think it was probably my brother-in-law, because he's very, very into D&D. And he is very much like, I'm trying, well, like, here's one example. So in D&D, there's a kind of monster called a troll.
Right.
And it has a very long nose, generally, with how it's drawn. And I just don't like it. It's just not my thing. So when I run trolls in my games, first of all, usually I'll have multiple things called trolls, and then characters can kind of bicker over what's a troll. And the thing is, there's multiple kinds of trolls in my world.
Sure.
But the ones I use the most basically look like the Incredible Hulk, because I just don't like the nose. That's just my thing, right?
Yeah.
Drives him nuts. He'll sit there the whole time and throw a fit, that I changed the shape of the nose,
Yeah.
he hates it. Another thing I'll do, like a big pet peeve of mine, is I feel like I told this story on one of these. I used to have a friend named Chris Cross who he would go out on a smoke break and look up the stats of the monster.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about that on mine when we were talking about people cheating in their role-playing games.
Yeah, and I didn't like that. And so we ended up inventing a thing. There was a guy locally running for office, and his last name, I'm probably butchering his last name, but it looked like Lufflehawk. And so someone, when we were just driving around through the week, said that should be a thing in D&D. There should be a monster called a Luffle Hawk. And so we didn't even have it attack or anything. We just, you could see a giant hawk circling around, and I don't know if I was running it or my wife was running it or who, and we told Crows, like, roll a d20 to see if your character is aware of the Leffelhawk. So now he's heard the word Leffelhawk, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. And he was outside for like at least an hour and got mad. He goes, oh, hey, work called. I got to go to work. And he never came over again.
Wow.
And I can't honestly say what was going through his head, but like, honestly, up until that point, he had kind of become my best friend.
Yeah.
And that was it. He got mad about that and he walked. I was like, okay.
Wow.
I don't know. People are weird. People get real kind of persnickety about weird stuff with D&D.
Well,
heck, there's one game that we played where I think I picked up a ring or something, and I didn't perceive anything wrong with it. I put it on, and suddenly I became basically a part wolf. I had fangs and extremely bad breath. I didn't quit over it. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna just breathe on people.
We in our group, we had talked about, there was a couple guys that had come and gone from our group, basically because of cheating. They operated under the idea that they wanted to win at playing D&D, and we were all like, that's entirely not the point of this. That, min-maxers, they would have, like 3 charisma and the highest strength and dexterity and constitution they could possibly have and stuff like that. And
it's like, okay, you need to tell the story of the last one that was here, because that's a really great story. And Chris, I think you've heard it before, but we have some people in the chat that may not have heard it.
That's true. I'll tell it again.
Is it okay if I take a restroom break while you're telling
absolutely.
the story?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The one with Lavinia, the 2 traps.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think some of the people in the chat will have heard this, but I think the new folks wouldn't have. So, right now on my channel, I've just started. I'm on my second installment. I am doing a video telling the story of the longest running campaign within our D&D group, and it was from the 3rd edition adventure path, the Savage Tide. And I did a lot of improvisation, so I didn't follow I followed the story basically, but I filled it out with lots of side quests, and there was a lot of role playing, a lot of character development, and honestly, my group said it was like the best thing. They loved all the character development. Well, I came up with because I was in a situation where I had started out as the player, and the dungeon master left, so I took over running the game. So my character had to become an NPC. But there was another NPC in the party that actually was never supposed to become part of the party. They were actually a villain that was supposed to have been killed off early on. And through role-playing and story and whatnot, they converted this character, and she became like a sidekick to one of the main fighter character. So I thought, what a great way to kind of slim down the party, get rid of one of these 2 NPCs. Didn't matter to me which one. I'd kind of leave it to the party. And I totally was stealing from Dark Knight Returns. The whole Joker's thing of you could save Harvey Dent or you could save Rachel, but you can't save them both, right? And I, had this situation where these demons start a fight in the town, and they're teleporting creatures, and during the battle, these 2 NPCs get taken away by the demons. And they're set up with this circumstance. They're sent a note by the arch-villain telling them, you can only save 2 of them. You have till sundown tomorrow.
You can only save 1 of them, not 2 of them.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. One of the 2 of them. You can't save them both. And what I did was I went on the Paizo. You know, Paizo was the company that now is, you know, in charge of Pathfinder, but they were the ones that had been putting out the adventure path. There were people on the Paizo boards that would talk about their adventures, and you know, they'd ask for advice in certain circumstances and whatnot. And I started a thread and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I outlined exactly what I told all of you guys. And I'm like, help me put this trap together with the magic and the traps and the whatever.
And he even ran everything by me.
And I ran
Here's
everything
a scenario.
by
What would you do here?
Netter.
You know.
And Netter doesn't know the rules as well as the people online, but she's got that kind of keen analytical mind, so she'd think of things, and I'd, you know, refine it and tweak it. And I would tell the people online, I'd be like, and I want to keep this as grounded in the rules as possible. I want, if my players, you know, want to rule lawyer me, I'll have already covered it. And if they find a spell or a technique or something that none of you all came up with and I didn't see coming, and they're able to somehow break it and save both of them, well, then they earn the victory, right?
Like one of the things that I had come up with, because one person's kind of like in a cave behind.
They were both in caves
Yeah.
where they were, yeah.
But it's like, I even said, well, what about like a dig spell where they can go under?
Yeah.
He goes, nope, it goes too far down,
So
too far up,
yeah.
can't go around it, can't go to the sides
I
of it.
used walls of force, and you know, there was this key. Once it, you know, it was kind of like temporally locked. Once it activated one, you know, thing, it wouldn't work on the other one, and you couldn't make a duplicate, and blah 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 blah. Some of the things Netter came up with, some of the things people came up with, I said, no, these guys are all this level, so I knew, you know, those things wouldn't work. Come game time, and I'm executing this, and these guys had been, you know, thinking through their ideas for how to rescue them, you know, the whole week. They come, they start to implement their plan, and the magic user is just punching out all these spells. And he's got like everything exactly what he needed to get past, you know, the traps and whatnot. And first, they were obscure spells that he never used before in the game. So it's like, why would you have prepared those particular spells when you didn't know what you were going up against? And I said, you know what spells do you have prepared? I want to see your character sheet. He goes, no, I have them written down. And I'm like, wait a minute. You said you have, I think it was like Netter said, it was dig, or it was, I don't remember, it was some kind of control spell. I'm like, how do you have that at your level?
Yeah.
You know, that's a spell you don't have at your level. And what made it even worse was he was a multi-class, so he was a cleric and magic user, so he had lower level spells than even the level that the characters were all at. So he got ticked off, and I'm like, you know, basically you're cheating. And he's like really upset and he's offended, and I'm like, no, we're done here. Game's over, leave my house. The following day I get an email and he admits to me that he was on the Paizo boards and he was reading all the commentary that was going on. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we will continue this game without you. You will not be coming back. Thank you. You ruined a really great scenario, and you're no longer welcome. It was just that simple, you know. And he tried to apologize. I'm like, I forgive you, but I'm not going to play Dungeons and Dragons with you again. That's all there is to it. So
Yeah, and he hadn't been back. And he kept apologizing, going, I understand why, you know, you don't want me to play more. It's like, you think?
yeah. That's a great way to derail a game. So yeah, sounds much more. Oh, and I forgot the worst insult is he was leaving. He said, it's not my fault you didn't properly prepare for this scenario. And that's when I lost, and that's when I threw him out. Because
I remember you saying that before.
Yeah.
And I wanted to chime in with that a little bit if I can.
Yeah, please.
I actually think there's something to be said for not preparing.
In many cases, I agree with you. That's true. Off the
Because
cuff
like
can be some of the best stuff. Right?
like when I started playing DC Heroes, on the back of the box, the slogan was something like, "Now you are part of the legend. You, decide this and that or whatever, right?"
Yeah. True.
And
True.
I was like, cool, cool. I'm in the driver's seat. And so what I hate is being railroaded.
Yeah.
And for those who are unfamiliar, the idea, simply put, is just the dungeon master has decided how the story goes, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And if you try to say, well, you know what, I don't think my guy would do, I don't think he wants to go to the dungeon master will kind of say, well, that's cool. You try to go to your girlfriend's house, but get lost in the woods and fall through a hole into the dungeon.
Yeah.
And there's no stairs. And now you have to do my dungeon, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and, and so I feel a little bit like his parting comment to you
Uh-huh.
also doubles as kind of saying that's kind of what he's into in a way. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's sort of says more about him than you.
Yeah.
It's
That's true.
cool if you want to make a trap,
Right.
that's not plot. That's
Right.
just kind of having your stats for a thing down.
Yeah.
I ran a game back around the year 2000, and I had this guy playing named Eric Grosscup, and he's a genius. I mean, he's literally a genius. Like he joined Mensa
Wow.
and he's a government contractor where the military asks him, we want to send 10 tanks to Iraq or something. What this month is the cheapest way to do that?
Yeah.
And he takes his number crunching from role playing that he was always so good at, and he applies it to that, and he's like, this month is cheaper to go by plane.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, they ask him again, and he'll go, right now, it's actually the cheapest way to go is to go by ship. And that's it. That's his whole job. But at any rate, when you put him in a role-playing scenario, he was just looking at, what do I do here? And so it didn't matter what I did as the GM. I would come up with villains where I had no idea how you beat the villain. And my players just would figure something out. So after a while, personally, I just thought, what's a cool villain or what's a cool power, whatever. And then everything else is more like improv.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big fan of that myself.
No, absolutely. And honestly, that's one of the things that the more mature players in our group, we've talked about many times over the years, how sometimes when the players do something the dungeon master doesn't expect, sometimes that leads to the best adventures. There was a scenario that my friend Chris, another Chris, was running.
I know a lot of Chris's. Yeah,
I know, right? He's also my lawyer, so and he
okay.
he was doing a scenario where I had a character. We were allowed 2 characters each because there was only at the time we started the game with 2 players. We ended up with 3, but to fill out the party, we were each allowed to play 2 characters. So I created a brother and sister, adoptive brother and sister team. The scenario was that the sister had been kidnapped, and we were being used by the baddie. If you don't get me this artifact, I'll kill your sister. So we go on this quest to find this item, and there just came a point where things were getting really, really rough, and I started thinking this through, and I'm like, it was some sort of a magic sword or something like that. And we started thinking, what does this bad guy want with this good magical sword? And we realized that all we're doing is we're furthering whatever evil plan he's got. And I said, this guy's evil. What's going to keep him from just killing her and killing us when we bring him the thing? And so there got to be this point where I'm on this ship with a bunch of the army of this guy, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think we're going to survive this, and I think my sister's already dead. And I declared my action. I'm taking the artifact and I'm throwing it into the ocean. And Chris's eyes just got big, and he's like, okay, roll initiative. We roll initiative, and the way it worked out, I went before any of the baddies, and so I threw it into the ocean. And he's thinking, and he can't figure out a way for any of them to dive in after it or get it or whatever. And every round it's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and he's like, and there's nobody here who has the level to, cast spells that can bring it back or whatever. So it then became a very interesting race where his spies that are able to turn invisible and I don't remember what their mode of transportation was. They were on their way back to tell the big bad what had happened, and we were trying to get there before they did to now try to take him out. So now the whole scenario changed, and he was following a module, but now he had to skip over a large segment of it, and now we were doing this instead of a head-on battle. We were doing this sneaky stealth thing through the castle, avoiding high-level monsters we weren't ready to fight. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. And even the Dungeon Master was like, this is really cool. This really puts me on my toes. I gotta think this through. And there was a couple game sessions where he's like, okay, we got to quit here because I need time to think this out. I need to prepare the next part of this. I wasn't expecting this. And it was just awesome. It was really just awesome. But, yeah, so I get what you're saying.
I ran this game back around the year 2000, give or take a little. And the pretty typical D&D party comes up over a hill, and there's a red dragon sleeping, like a great worm, full-on king of the bad boys, red dragon, sleeping in this clearing.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy crap, dude, we're first level. And I was like, I'm aware.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, okay. And I remember these two of the guys playing who were some of my most argumentative players.
Yeah.
And something was always going on with these two guys. I guess I won't call them out by name.
Right.
But the one guy is like, well, I'm a wizard. I mean, I guess I could cast this. Okay, well, what? Well, we're going to die, but okay, fine. And they run down the hill with their swords and die.
Yeah.
And at any rate, the one guy says to me after the game, well, you're not very good at running D&D. Like, don't you know what challenge rating is? And I was like, yeah, I know what it is. I hate it. And they're like, well, how was I supposed to win? And I was like, nobody told you to fight it.
Right. Exactly right.
It was a mile over there. It was scenery.
Yeah.
And you went and poked it. Right? Like, if you had kept going, you'd be alive. Right. And they were like, why was it there? And I was like, because why wouldn't it be? Are you going to run into them at 20th level? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that means they exist. If it was a great worm dragon, it was alive when you were at first level. It had to be somewhere in the game world, excuse me.
Right.
I never told you to go screw with it. Just the same, I always have my 20th level guys run into skeletons. That are piddly little, and they're like, why are you throwing skeletons at us? I'm like, because I did it first level.
Yeah.
It's an aspect of your world. Of course you're going to, if you just want to wade through them and not mess with them, that's fine. But
every
to me,
now
that's
and again, that's
suspension of disbelief. Yeah, yeah. I hate, like I said, I had about 700 regular customers at my shop. And then I had about 700 more who would just come in sporadically and they didn't have a poll with me or whatever. I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily know their names, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that said, though, I mean, I am not joking when I say if I was open from 9 to 9, 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, we never did well enough for me to like pay people to work for me. So it was me stuck there every day of my life, right? There was always a game of D&D going. 9 to noon is, person A is running their game. At noon to 3 is person B is running their game. 7 days a week, there's always at least one game of D&D going. And on top of that, if it's a Saturday night or something, maybe we have 6 games of D&D going. And we had some back rooms where people could play and, multiple tables and so on and so forth. And at any rate, what I got tired of was I got tired of all those D&D players coming up to me at the counter and go, "Hey, I rolled up a really cool new D&D character. I think he's really original." And I'm like, "Cool. What's his deal?" They go, "Oh, he's a halfling thief, and he has a really high dexterity." I go,
Yeah.
And
That
then
doesn't sound very original to me.
and then 100 more guys come up and say, "Oh, can I tell you about my halfling thief?" And I'm like, "Okay." Or it's the elven ranger, or it's the orc barbarian, the half orc barbarian. Since third edition was new, everybody made a half orc,
Right.
because now they could. But like, I got so tired of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at any rate, so I knew this one guy, and honestly, he's not a terribly good player. But I remember one day he's like, "Can I tell you about my new thief?" And I was like, "Sure." He goes, "He's a half orc." And I was
There
like,
you
"I'm
go.
listening." And he goes, "He has like a dexterity of 4." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "And with after his bonus, he's got a strength of 19." And so he grabs you and is squeezing your head against the table. And is like, "I so good at take your money, haha. You don't even notice I take your money." As if you hear the bones slowly snapping more. And then he's like, "Save me," and he's like walking away, and the person's just scared to death. And that was his half orc thief.
That
And
is
I was
hysterical.
and I was like, "That's great. Like, I want more stories like that and less
Yeah.
stories like, so I'm a human fighter." Like, okay. Or I kept telling people, like, so let's say they made a movie about your game.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, and I'm watching the trailer. What's the hook? Why do I care? What sets your movie apart from every other fantasy movie? Well, we save a princess. I'm like, okay, well, I hate to
Right.
break it to you. That's been done.
Right.
What else? You know what? Tell me something.
Right.
I think one of the things I liked the most was Game of Thrones, and I haven't seen the ending. Everybody said the ending sucked, so I just didn't watch the final season.
You're probably
But
better off. Yeah.
but early on, I liked it because it wasn't the same old crap all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to be surprised. I like it when people do weird stuff.
No, you're absolutely right. And man, you know, Game of Ice and Fire what's it called? Song of Ice and Fire is a series that
Yeah.
that is really it could be a masterclass in world building if it weren't for the fact that the guy that wrote it completely lost the plot and is probably never going to write another book. So it could be an example of such good world building that it becomes so complex you can't keep it straight, so you can no longer use it. It becomes unwieldy.
Right.
Which is kind of what I think happened with it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I had another regular player of ours. He always loved to come up with weird characters. He had a half orc bard. He came up with Patrick.
Oh,
It was a half orc bard, and he also had a very low charisma, so he would never make his perform rolls ever. And it was his idea. I think he was partly inspired by Worf from Star Trek: The Next Generation with Klingon opera. So when he'd sing, he'd like, okay, nobody wants to listen to you and they're all turning away, and he would find ways to make that work to his advantage, right? So in other words, instead of inspiring the bar to, you know, get everybody's attention, he'd get people to like cover their ears and not listen, which would also distract them. So I'm like, that's actually kind of brilliant.
Now, this past Wednesday, this past Wednesday, Troy had a game where he managed to avoid an entire encounter.
Yeah. So it was another situation like you were describing where we were going to go into a combat that we probably could not win. It was probably going to be a TPK. And, but I didn't even know this. I did not know that the creature we were going up against was so powerful. And the one player in our party that did exactly what he should do and just kept his mouth shut because he didn't want to give away, you know, meta information, right? So it was a situation where we're stuck in a haunted house. We can't get out. As we've gone through the place, we've uncovered the lore, you know, kind of like I guess you would in a video game. We figured out what's happened here. There was this cult that was here that was trying to do all these spells and sacrifices to obtain eternal life, and they literally all sacrificed themselves to some demon god for immortality. And the guy running the cult, in the end, he sacrificed his wife and children, and then received a message from the demon or the evil entity or whatever, interestingly in the form of a written scroll that just derided him and said, "What made you think your sacrifices meant anything to me? I don't care about you. I owe you nothing. You know, sucks to be you, basically. You killed your family for nothing. Deal with it." And we found this scroll with his dead body and, you know, an empty jar of poison in his hand. He killed himself, right? So we had this note with us. And so we get down to the last combat, and there's a bunch of ghosts that tell us, you need to sacrifice one of your own to this creature, you know, if you want to escape. Otherwise, you'll never escape. And we were getting ready to roll initiative. And I said, you know what? Talking is a free action. I say, well, you know, let me give you a counter offer. How about you all just leave, and then we can go too, and, you know, we'll just no harm, no foul. And they say, well, that's not how it works. In order for us to obtain immortality, we need a sacrifice to this creature or it will kill you. I'm like, well, technically, you're already immortal. You're undead. You can't die. I said, and besides, your sacrifices aren't working. And then I proceed to explain everything I just said. And I show him the parchment. And the dungeon master's like, you actually say all this to them? Yeah. He says, roll a diplomacy check. And I rolled it, and it actually was pretty good. I thought it was going to fail because they're hostile, right? He goes, no, you're not trying to change their opinion. You're just trying to get them to believe you. And you do. And all of a sudden they scream and they yell and they realize that everything they believed was false. They disappear, a la the whole ghosts with unfinished business. Yeah. And they disappear. And the house begins to shake apart. So it's the run out of the house before it implodes on itself, a la Poltergeist. And we win without even having to do combat. And so he says, okay, outside the game, there's no way you would have survived that combat. So I didn't know what you guys were going to do. And the fact that you came up with that and you made your roll and it was brilliant, he's like, I gave it to you. You win. I'm like, holy crap! That's awesome! And the player that knew what this creature was we were going up against, he was like, yeah, I was kind of wondering where this was going because I kind of figured we were dead.
So that reminds me of two stories.
Okay.
Go for it.
The halfling hooker and
Hooker.
the orcish dentist. So I
Oh
guess I'll
my
tell the
God.
orcish dentist one
I
first.
may
Okay?
end up stealing these ideas, just so you
That's
know.
fine. This is the way.
Yes.
So um the I'm running this game for my son, and it's in my superhero game. We say D&D kind of takes place in this part of the universe over here, and you can go there.
Uh-huh.
And like I've put some stargates and things like that in the D&D world, so the superheroes, if I just have nothing else to run, they can basically go through a stargate and go kill a beholder with their heat vision, and just to give
Yeah.
the players something to do, you know.
Sure.
um at any rate, so my main guy in my superhero game, the bear,
Uh-huh.
I had my son make like his main guy, and he's the bear's son. And the bear is like, I'm gonna take you out hunting, son, and I'm gonna teach you how to kill monsters, and da 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 da. And at any rate, he sort of gives him a sword, and that's not going so good because he's like 5 or something at the time. And he goes, okay, we'll find something else for you. And there's this thing in GURPS, and we were using GURPS Supers. GURPS is a really good system for supers and D&D basically together. And at any rate, there's this smart gun, and the smart gun can tell what you're aiming at. And so it knows the difference between friend and foe. And so there cannot be such a thing as friendly fire if you're using this smart gun.
Sure.
And at any rate, so my son is shooting things. He's like, ha ha ha, yay. And my character at one point is like, okay, now give it back. And he goes, bang. I was like, oh, you shoot me? You shoot daddy? And in and out of game, he's like 5 at the time.
Yeah.
And he looks like guilty. And I was like, give me the gun. And my son goes like this and sets it in my hand. And then when he pulls his hand away, he's not making the gun gesture anymore.
Uh-huh.
Right? And I'm thinking, my 5-year-old has a better sense of role playing than some adults I know. So that's awesome. But at any rate, so my main character is like, oh my God, like, I think I'm a bad dad. and so for like a hot second, he's like, I think I'm too violent. We got to try to come up with like a way through these problems that's less violent. And so I don't know, a game session or two later, he's like going out for a walk in the D&D world, and there's these 2 orcs guarding a dungeon, and they have this rock throwing ability. And so this bowling ball sized chunk of rock hits the wall next to him and just like explodes on contact. And he's like, holy shit, dude, you almost hit me. What are you thinking? And they're like, look at each other like, what? And he's like, you guys almost hit me. Be more careful. And he just goes up and starts talking to him. And they're like, we supposed to hit you, And he's like, no, do you not know who I am? Like, no. Yeah, I'm not one of them. I'm with you guys. And they're like, really? And he's like, did nobody tell you? Who's running things here? And they're like, Korak. And I'm like, and Torak didn't tell you I was coming today. And they're like, no. And I think my wife's running it, and she's like, give me like a charisma roll. And he's got crazy high charisma.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you get like a great roll, and they're dumb as a box of rocks. So no, they put the rocks down. Or sorry, not mean to hurt you. And at any rate, he's like, so what are you guys getting out of this anyway? Like, what do you do this for? And they start talking about like all the more money they make. And he's like, that's no way to make a living, guys. There's better ways you could be. So what do you like doing? And so the one guy's like, me, Krusk, like, bash out teeth. And he's like, well, there you go. You should be a dentist. And if you're a dentist, people will pay you to bash out their teeth. Really? It's like, you just make the money, except there's no split with the other guys. And da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, what do you like doing? And the other guy's like, me like sewing. And the other orc kind of looks at him like, really? And he's like, shut up. I like sewing. I make all clothes for all orcs. And I'm like, well, you could be a seamstress and you can be a dentist and you
Yeah.
guys can. And like he takes them to town and introduces the orcs to like humans and stuff that are
Yeah.
like, burn them, you know? And he's like, no, 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 no. These guys are trying to turn their life
He's a
around, and
reformed
it's
Bumble.
really important that you be accepting and everything. And she's like, give me a roll, and it's like some stupid high roll, you know. And at any rate, so this is part of the thing where the heroes kind of don't age, but the world around them
Sure.
changes and ages and everything. And he forgot the name of the town, and it's all these years later. He's like riding through town on a horse, and they've gotten to the point where they're kind of becoming the Old West, and it's
Yeah.
getting a little steampunk and stuff. And he looks over at this porch, and these two orcs married each other and are elderly, and the one is like knitting, like knitting needles, and they got like a sign out front with a big like crappily drawn orc tooth on it or whatever, you know.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
Tusk's dentistry. Yeah, and I was like, wow, I invented dentists in the D&D world. That's kind of funny.
That is
Um,
hysterical.
So there's that. And then the other one that came to mind was, so I'm always playing the bear, and it's at the shop, and I'm in somebody else's game, and I'm playing the bear, and something happened to that bear. He died, which is fine. And so they're like, you got to make up another guy, and they're like, you always play the same thing. And I was like, yeah, I've played everything by now, and I know what I like. So yeah, I play what I like. And they're like, we're tired of the same thing. You should play something different. And I was like, I thought I'd be a big, strong human fighter or something. No, we're sick of it. And I was like, you want something different? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, be careful what you wish for. And so I made an assassin. She was a halfling assassin that I called the Black Widow.
Uh-huh.
And so I am telling them, and like she worshiped Nurgle or something, like a death god.
Uh-huh.
And so she's like banging the mayor. And at any rate, like as he's sort of in the throes of ecstasy, she slits his throat and says a bunch of evil crap like, and this was not an evil party. Everybody's like chaotic good, lawful good, stuff like that. And I'm like, no, chaotic evil all the way. And
Right.
like I'm gonna pull out his heart and take a bite out of it like it's an apple. And I'm like, here, Nurgle, here's another sacrifice that you you give me the ability to kill, and I will keep killing for you. And that's our arrangement. Da 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 da. And everybody's like, holy crap, dude. And I'm just like, I'm like going out of my way to be as evil as possible, right? And I'm like, okay, so I wash up and I go into the tavern. And so someone comes over to me, and I had a ring, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's detect evil doesn't work on me.
Okay.
You can't detect me at all. I'm just immune, right?
Sure.
Because otherwise it ruins the whole point of the character.
Right.
So at any rate, they're like, what's your deal? And she's like, well, I'm actually a baker. I'm the town baker, but I dream of a better life, and I want to write a novel that really speaks to the human condition. So I would really like to follow you guys around and write down your adventures, and that you would be like my muses. And in return, I will bake for you, and I can do your cooking and stuff. And they're like, he's lying. And I was like, yes, out of game, I'm absolutely lying. You don't know that.
Yeah.
If you'd like to roll to figure out that I'm lying to your face, you can roll. And it's like, I roll a 4, I roll a whatever. And I put a lot of whatever into I'm good at lying.
Yeah.
And so the GM's like, no, you have no idea you're being lied to. And they're like, well, this isn't going to last long. And so they're like, okay, fine. If you're a baker, bring us some baked goods. And I was like, okay, I will. And so I killed the baker in town, sacrifice him to Nurgle, and take a bunch of crap, and I go out there, And I was like, there you go. Fresh baked. And they're like, well, we know that it's like, well, out of game, it. Yes. Yeah. And so then that DM was okay with PvP. And so one of the guys is like basically being a bad player. He's not separating what the player knows out of game from what his character knows in game. And he keeps saying stuff, and we constantly correct him, and I'm like, you're my first target. And so at some point I get him alone, and I had dagger throwing and a ring of spider climb. And
Uh-huh.
so she skitters up the wall and before he could get to the door, he was out of hit points. And she drags him off somewhere, and does whatever. Um, and they're like, "What happened to so and so?" And she's like, "I don't know. I was baking bread. Hell if I know." Um, and like what one by one, I'm taking out the party. And finally, I can't remember what happened, but someone walks in on me mid sacrifice or whatever, and they're like, "Holy crap!" And I'm like, "Oh crap, the jig's up." Okay, well, so I try to just take out the whole party, and they kill me.
Right.
And they're like, "We killed you! We killed you!" And I'm like, "Good for you, great." And
Mhm.
they're like, "Well, now you got to make up a new character." And I'm like, "Okay, bear with me. I'm thinking lawful good human fighter. What do you think?"
Brilliant. That is brilliant.
And they were like, "Okay, yeah, we like having the bear around now because he's like helpful. It doesn't kill us." And
Yeah, that you taught him a valuable lesson. That's how you do it. Uh, I like that halfling hooker. That's gotta.
this might be a bit much. Can I say something a little dirty?
Go
For it.
for it.
Can we give a warning, like turn the volume down for
Yeah,
10
If you
seconds?
are a child or like to act like one,
this
you might want to, cover your ears.
the following part of this video, this stream, might be unsuitable for children. So if you're a children, piss off. Okay, go ahead.
Her slogan was half as tall means twice as tight.
There's a certain logic there.
And and so at any rate, like I remember saying that to one of the other party members, and he was a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "That's
I'm an-
disgusting." He's like, "That's disgusting." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And he
Yeah.
like sits there for like a couple seconds, and he's like, "So how much?"
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
Remember, you want to have some place to put your beer stein, so
Of course, I could see her responding, going, "Is it in yet?"
Oh, that's terrible. That is terrible.
Well, if she's twice as
Yeah. That makes it even worse.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
even worse. Yeah, that's true.
Oh my gosh. But so anyway, so your your channel, our D&D game, you're basically going through and you're telling the story of your D&D game.
Well, that one is a lot different than the superhero one. With the superhero game, we're coming up on 40 years, and I've
Yeah.
got all these old stories I can tell.
Right.
With the D&D game, we played so few games over the years, actually. They're all up already.
You're getting caught up.
And-
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, it's done, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so the next time I do a video is the next time we play D&D.
That's
it'll
actually
be
pretty
that
cool.
it'll
You
be
use
that
it as
game.
you're in a way you're kind of using it as a chronicle of your current game then.
Well, in something we've talked about is, this is a little depressing and I don't want to bring down the mood, but like my health is not great. My wife's health is not great, there's a lot going on there. And at any rate, so for my kids, we've kind of talked about that my son wants to keep the superhero game going after I'm gone, and maybe the D&D one too, because he actually likes it more than I do.
Yeah.
And so for him, then that's the notes. When he's like, "Well, what is this or what is that?" He just watches the old videos to know, "Oh yeah, there was this character, the name such and such or whatever."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a resource for us to use too.
No, I get that. It's like Troy's been doing this chronicling with an AI of the campaign that he had done years ago, and you got at least one part up on your channel, right, sweetie?
Yeah.
So he's got at least one part up. So it's like later on, guys, go to Troy's channel and just listen. I mean, it's amazing. And as he's doing the chat thing, it's out loud, so I can hear it. I'm like, I remember that. I remember that. I remember
And
that.
look, I need you guys to like and comment and encourage me to get the next one up, because I just have to finish editing it and I can put up the next installment. But sometimes it requires somebody to come in and, you know, kind of give me a little kick in the butt, you know?
I can kick your butt.
Well, yes, of course you can. But anyway, yeah. So this is some good stuff, and you know what, Chris? I think you've also inspired me. Maybe I will do the same thing, just as little one-offs, and tell those stories that you know, if it was worth telling 2 and 3 times on streams, I'll tell the stories of the great stories that went bad because of bad players, and put them up for the world to see. So I think that's
Yeah.
that's
And
gonna be
I
coming.
I don't I don't know if this is helpful or relevant or anything, but I've just recently found out, for whatever reason, it seems like the gaming community is allergic to the like button. They just don't want to hit the like button. Like today,
Yeah.
I mentioned Eric Grosscup earlier. I was talking to him earlier today, and I started telling him kind of what he had missed in recent games, and he's like, "No, no, no, I follow your channel. I know everything that happened to the recent games." And I'm like, "Oh, that's funny because like you haven't liked it." And he's like,
Yeah.
"No." I'm like, "Okay, that would be kind of nice." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Nah,
Yeah.
pass."
Speaking
So
of likes, folks, you know, we have gone up and down in the likes for some reason. And we were
Yeah.
really encouraged that earlier on we got to over 20 likes, and then we kind of fell back to
17.
and now we're at 17. But this is after going
on
back up to 20 again. So what's
you, kn-
going on, folks? You guys
you know it's
huh.
what's weird is for me it says 12.
Oh, you got to refresh.
Yeah, let me refresh.
Sometimes
my
if
screen
you
again.
refresh, you'll see where it's at currently. But
Oh, now
guys,
I got 16. Okay, what the heck, guys?
yeah.
Now 17 again.
So I mean, you know, it's very encouraging if you do hit that like button. I don't think people realize how much that means to us. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
But
go
it
up
might
and down
also
like
be
that.
that there's some shenanigans on the YouTube side,
Yeah, it could
just
be.
like how we oftentimes lose subscribers when, you know, the person didn't actually unsubscribe, and you go to a channel you've been subscribed to for a long time and find yourself
Yeah.
not subscribed. You know, Michael French from Retro Blasting was literally just talking about that today on Twitter. So make sure you double check. Make sure you're subscribed to myself, to Netter, to Chris's multiple channels. Deleted Scenes has been dropping those links. Subscribe to each other. It's absolutely crucial. If you enjoy this content, you enjoy hanging out with us, it really helps keep us motivated to keep doing this stuff. If you guys would do
Jesse
that.
says he sees 20. I refresh my screen. I see 18. Connie confirms 18. So yeah, I don't know what's going on
Weird.
with that. It's like if y'all are
That's very
hitting the like button
strange.
thinking that you hadn't hit it, check the number after you hit it to see if it goes up or down.
Yep,
It should be
exactly.
going up.
That's weird.
But speaking of which, let's kind of go through the
Yeah, we had so
coming
much time talking, we went way over the
Yeah,
hour.
we went way
so
over.
hopefully
So
we're
we
keeping you
should
too
Sorry.
long,
wrap
Chris.
this up.
Oh,
No, don't
No,
be sorry.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
And by all means, the chat, you know, knows they can drop out whenever they need to, because I know people have to work. But speaking of subscribing to us, tomorrow night over on Last Call, I will be talking with Aged Boomer about the recent Blue Beetle movie, which neither one of us saw. So if you guys saw it, you might want to, you know, come give your 2 cents. But we're going to talk a little bit about what the heck's going on over at DC as they wind down their Snyderverse and they begin to start whatever they've got planned next. We'll talk about that, and I'm going to do a little bit of a retrospective on the character of Blue Beetle, all the paths not taken that I think modern audiences might not even be aware of. So that will be tomorrow night at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. And then Saturday night, over on Big Al Presents, we will be watching the 1994 film that started all those TV shows y'all seem to like, Stargate. That'll be a rewatch on his channel. Again, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. If you don't have your own copy of Stargate, that's okay, because I will be hosting it on Cosme, so you can watch along with us. Then, let's see. How dare you go overtime, says the guy who adds 30 minutes to every stream he's on. Yeah, exactly. That brings us to Sunday. Speaking of which, over on Deleted Scenes channel, Unscripted, episode number 28. Don't know what the topic's going to... Oh, unfortunately, I just put the name from the last stream. It's not a different path. It's some other different path. But it is episode 28.
We're taking the left fork and showing the right fork.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But that is 7 Central, 8 Eastern, because it is an hour before and a great lead-in to Geeky Geezers over on Age of Boomers channel, where we will bring you the week's geeky news, at least what we found interesting. And hopefully, if it's something that another channel's been talking about, we will bring a unique perspective. At least that is our goal. And then that brings us back to Deleted Scenes at midnight Eastern, 11 Central, for his The Other Side of Midnight, to kind of wind down our weekend.
So it's a deleted scene sandwich.
It's a deleted scene sandwich, yes, with me and Boomer as the meat in between. I really don't like this analogy.
I don't like this. Back up. Back out of that.
I thought you were going to say with you and Boomer as the good stuff in between. You know, because
yeah,
in
there's
between the
that
two
too.
slices of bread, you got the good stuff. You know, peanut butter and jelly, whatever.
And that brings us to Thursday.
Tried to save you there.
I know. And I'm not the one that drank a whole bottle of vodka either.
Jesse said did it have cheese?
I am sober and innocent.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to next Thursday. Nutter, who is your guest next week on Thursday Things?
Next Thursday, my special guest will be Tom Conkle. And we're going to be talking about the Island in the Stars fundraiser that is actually kicking off 2 days prior.
Yep.
And, I hope you will let's try this in English. I hope you guys will tune in for that. I also hope that, if you can spare a couple of bucks, that you can actually, donate for the fundraiser. That would be amazing. But
We'll talk
talking
about it
all
next
that
week.
there.
We'll give you all the links to check out his Kickstart. By all means, check out The Real Deal with Tom Conkle, because he's already got some promotional videos up there for it. Look, we're always talking about how we're getting sick and tired of how they're destroying our favorite franchises and The Message and modern audiences and blah, 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 blah. And now we're not getting anything because they're on strike because they're afraid robots are going to take over. And they probably will, and we'll just get more of the same, literally. So we're talking about somebody who's out there as an independent film creator doing... doing exactly what George Lucas and so many others did before, independently making good content that becomes classics. So we're hoping to see this do really, really well, and we'll talk about that next week. Chris, you don't really do live streams, do you? So it's not like there's
Continuum Comics is going to be starting up doing live streams of me starting to draw the characters and stuff. And I figure while I'm drawing, probably it's just going to be conversations about whatever's going on in pop culture. I assume someone in the chat will be like, "Did you see Barbie?" And I'm like, "Hated it,"
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually will be doing some live stream stuff over on Continuum Comics. It just hasn't quite hit yet.
Okay. Do you have a day of the week in mind that you're planning to do that or anything?
I have no idea. Yet. With back to school and everything, it's for my kids. Like neither of my kids drive yet.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of I want to see my schedule solidify more and then commit to something. Yeah.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, let me know, and I will definitely work that into our regular what's coming up this week in our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of thing.
Cool. Thanks.
We have a long stretch between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday where we don't have anything to report on, so those might be great days for you.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that there's absolutely nothing going on Thursdays. So after, every week we got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Now it's like, I'm going to start doing stuff on Thursday.
I'm going to start doing something on Thursday. So
yeah,
so
Tuesday might work on my end.
There you go. So that might be.
That works.
So yeah, we'll keep everybody advised when that starts happening, and as you're following us, you'll start hearing about those live streams.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Any last thoughts? Any last words? Anything that you want to share about before we end?
No, I guess just well, a little.
Okay, go for it.
We're all sick of what we're being given.
Right.
And I think that we've spent a lot of time talking about what's wrong, right? I would like to see our community here come together and start generating stuff that's right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing with this comic book thing, because I'm good at drawing. I think we should kind of crowdsource a little. And I think everybody should work together on somehow making, and everybody's going to have a different talent.
Right.
But I think we should all kind of start producing more and support everybody for whatever they're producing, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
My son is learning 3D modeling. He feels like he is going to have the ability to start making video games and little shorts and stuff soon, and just everybody's good at something, right? And like a lot of people follow me because as comic book fans, they can either draw or they can write or whatever. Like, I would like to see those people like talk to each other. Yeah. Like if you're good at writing and you're looking for an artist, maybe we need some place where people are connecting with each other and we're doing something along those lines. And I feel like our circle of friends is getting bigger and this is slowly expanding, and I think that would help that too. And it's, to me, it seems like the next logical step of the Together We Grow thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Jesse wants to know, is your comic book on paper or digital?
I am hoping for it to be a free digital thing. And right now there's a conversation taking place about whether it is a basically one page of a traditional comic book goes someplace free to view once a month. So like January is page 1, February is page 2. And in the course of the year or whatever, we've got a 12-page comic book put together. And it would be traditional comic book stories. The other thing, though, we're thinking about doing is maybe more of like what the newspapers used to do with like a Dick Tracy or something like that, where it's a weekly thing instead of a monthly thing, and then it's a smaller number of boxes total, so that it's easier to put it out on a weekly basis. And so we're talking about maybe a serialized thing, and we don't know what where to put that. Like, do you put it on DeviantArt, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I'm good at drawing, I'm bad with computers. So we're trying to get that all figured out. Like I'm talking to a guy about writing for me, and he feels like he could, if it's like, say, just 3 boxes a week, he could do that. That's not too much to commit to. And that's kind of a conversation I'd like to have through some of because I figure the early live streams I do, I'm sorry if I'm being too long-winded here.
No.
If I'm just drawing a character and go, this is one of the characters we're going to do, this is Ultraman or whatever, and he's our Superman analog or whatever. This is the Cockroach, and he's Spider-Man. As I'm drawing these guys, to set up the stories that we're, because that's kind of where this is going, is we don't like DC and Marvel. Like, everybody likes old school DC and Marvel, but we can't do anything with those characters. So we're going to rip them off. you know, and then we're going to start telling this, you know, if there's something you always wanted to see Spider-Man do, that's what we're going to do. And just the same as, you know, coming from a role-playing point of view where the players steer stuff, I'm wanting the fans and the people in this community to steer stuff, you know. And so there's probably just going to be some sketching done early, and then we need to hear feedback.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's a
Yeah.
back and forth thing with, yeah, so that's kind of how I see it happening.
Cool.
Cool,
I
cool.
like that idea.
There you go.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got
Yep,
anything?
that's all I got. I mean, this whole stream for me has just been about, guys. This is our community. This is family, and I'm flipping here for it. So I just want to thank everybody here. I see Samael just popped in here at the end. Dee Dee Myers Jr. Welcome,
Yep.
welcome. And I tried to keep up with everybody. Connie, I can't even remember now if I said hi to you or not. I hope I did.
And Adega popped in.
And I did
I
say
don't
hi
know
to
if you're still here,
Adega.
Adega, but thank you for being here.
So guys, thank you all so much. You guys are, like I say, you guys are why we do this. And there are honestly days where I look at my subscribers and I look at the traffic on my videos and I go, why do I even bother doing this? And then I'll do a stream like this, and if 10 people show up and are engaged and actually wanted to come hang out with us, well, that's why we did it. So there we go.
And it's not even really about the subscribers, although for me, because I've said this before, it's me hitting a milestone. Because when I hit a milestone, you guys get things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for
she
me,
does
it's kind of
giveaways.
like,
Right.
you guys want to get gifts, get me to a milestone, and it's for you. So it's like, so like I had a 200 giveaway. When I hit 275, I'm going to have a trivia contest and give away a couple of things. And then when I hit 300, I'll be giving away more stuff. So it's just,
And even more
it's for you
importantly,
guys,
as our channels grow, as our community grows, we could do more going forward, and we could bring you more of the stuff that you really enjoy. So
Exactly.
So there you go. And that's all I got, Netter.
Well, that said, y'all know what I always say. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well, good, and fun. But it is so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat, and you're dropping comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all just hanging out in the same room and enjoying each other's company, having a great time. And you aren't just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so much. You can be anywhere right now, and you choose to be here, and that's so super encouraging. I mean, my own family's not even here, aside from Troy.
Yeah.
So, it just means so much to have my social media family here.
Yeah.
Because, like we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, we were at Chris's wedding, or vow renewal. I mean, that was amazing. That's family. It was just so incredible to be a part of his family. We were the extended family being there. It was amazing, because you are our family, and we enjoy hanging out with you and, hearing what you got to say. I also want to still put it out there that I am still looking for guests. I'm always looking for guests.
If you have a channel and you would like, to sit down and talk with us and see if we can't get you a few more subscribers, introduce you to the chat,
Yeah.
let Netter know.
Right now, I'm looking at October 5th and beyond. And like I said, my only requirements are that you have a YouTube channel that you're trying to grow and you have your own content on there. So those are my only requirements. So yeah, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter information is in the description below. Send me a DM. Let me know, when you want to be on. Like I said, it's beginning of October and beyond. So tell me what date would be good for you. Remember, it is 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. So, keep that in mind. But other than that, that's all I have. Thank you again for being here so very much. And we will